What up, Math 6 students? Let's do this. Chapter 9, Section 4, Measures of Variation. We already did measures of center, and hopefully you remember them, mean, median, and mode. We're trying to find basically one number to describe a data set, but measures of variation is related to this essential question, which is how, that's a W, can I tell if a data set is spread out or concentrated? Okay, let's talk about this. Say that I was taking down the ages of all the students in your table group. And since you're in 6th grade, it's going to be mostly 11 and 12-year-olds. How spread out is that versus if I come sit at your table group? And remember, I'm 85. So if I'm there, now you have 11, 12, and an 85-year-old. With me, won't our data be more spread out? And that's what measures of variation are all about, is to tell how spread out those data are. So, key idea. A measure of variation is a measure that describes the distribution. That means how spread out a data set is. A simple measure of variation. So one of the ways to do this is something called the range. And the range of the data set is the difference. What operation is difference between the greatest value and the least value? So the range is just taking the greatest value, subtracting the least value. I think we can handle that. Let's go on to the first row here. I already put out to the to you all how many states you've been to. So first we're going to find the range of a data set. How do we find the range of a data set? And we're going to use this data set. I was going to have you go to your table group. Mr. Plunkett has been in 26 states so far, and it's added that number to the data set. And then you are going to fill it out. And luckily, I had some students who already said where they've been and how many states they've been to on Google Classroom. So Christina said she's been to 1. Sienna said she's been to 4. She said Parker's also been to 4. And then Parker came on and said he's been to 8. So Parker, like a ninja, has apparently visited some states without necessarily being counted. Lucas has been to 1, which is California. Trust me, Lucas and Christina, you're in the best one. And Layla has been to 8. And I'm very old, so I've visited 26. Okay, we're going to order these data from least to greatest. Do you notice a trend here? Which measure of center do we have to order the data from least to greatest? Hopefully you said median. It's always a good policy to order data from least to greatest. So 1, 1, 4, 4, 8, and 26. How do we find the range? The difference between the greatest and least values. Well, the greatest value is 26. The least value is 1. So our range is 25. Okay. Now we're going to interpret. We're going to interpret, the worst word in math. Nobody knows what that word means. Interpret the range. Interpret means to explain what the range tells us. Here's the sentence you'd write. The range means that all the data in the data set is spread between how many values? 25 different values. There are 25 possible values, or a spread of 25 values between the greatest and least value. Write the data values in order from, how did we do this? Least to greatest. And you should always do that. There's some students asking about the homework. They're like, oh, why am I getting this wrong? And they didn't order their data from least to greatest when they were finding the median. And then you're going to find the difference between the greatest and least values to find the range. Do you remember? Is range a measure of center, like mean, median, and mode? No! It's a measure of variation, which is the name of the chapter section. The range helps us to see how spread out the data are, or is. I guess this should be are, right? Because data is plural. The measure of how spread out the data are is called variation. Variation is that idea of how spread out the data are. So, perfect. Excelente. Let's move on. And I'm actually going to stop this video so I can film the second one and have a fresh start and not go over the 15-minute YouTube length limit. So I'll be right back.